And we are live. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I'm here with Kellyanne Dalton, one of my artists. We already have a lot of participants. I'm going to open the Q&A window. Good. I want to tell you about Kellyanne because she's a really interesting person. She has let me just go here for a sec while people are joining. She is a self-taught artist and illustrator who's been selling and sharing her work since 2007. It's interesting when someone's self-taught, they bring kind of a fresh look usually. She grew up in the deep forests of Pennsylvania, but has called Western Montana home for the past 25 years. And this is one of the things I love about her work. She does mix sort of a rustic and a Montana vibe with a mystical and magical kind of vibe too. She can frequently be found trail running in the mountains with her dog, Lucy. Recent clients include Quarto Publishing, Random House, Editions Azul, and the Washington Post. Did I get all your clients? Sellers Publishing? Yes. Good. Okay. So let's see. We've got a lot of good stuff to talk about. I'm just going to set up. Oops. Kim, I just made you show up by mistake. So you can make you not show. So I have lots of questions I want to ask you. We were talking before the show, and you told me about an incredibly cool job that you had. Will you tell us about that?
Yes. So when I was in high school, I got really into theater, like super into theater. I was probably doing 2 to 3 shows at a time. I had an opportunity to travel to New York City and be a lead in an off-Broadway musical at the Judith Anderson Theater. I think it was on 23rd maybe, but I was 17. I was in New York City for almost a month, and it was amazing, like singing on stage.
You know, I did not know this about you until today, and I know you, I thought of you as an introvert. Well, I think you told me that at the retreat, and I was like, because I had said to you, oh, you're one of our more extroverted artists. You're very, I find a lot of the artists are really quiet, and not, but when they're with each other, they talk a lot. We're very verbal, it seems. But I never knew you would be in theater. So what happened with that? Why did you not continue with that? Why did you become an illustrator?
Well, I mean, the myth of like, am I just gonna go be an actor now? Is that gonna happen? I was kind of like, no, I'm responsible. Not that that's not responsible, but I always grew up in a household where I was encouraged to be artistic, but it was as a hobby. And so I assumed I would be a lawyer and practice law, and that would be my life. And yeah, but I've always lived these kind of 2 tracks. One is a very creative track, and one is very analytical.
Mm-hmm.
I have my degree in economics, and so it's yeah.
I know. I remember when you told me that, and I said, oh, what about you doing like a little kid book or board book or little book on like economics for children? I still love the idea. Like
Yeah,
just
and I
in your
actually
style.
I did that for my undergrad thesis. Uh, they let me create and I self-published and wrote it and did the illustrations, but it was called an A to Z Guide to Economic Concepts. And so I went through and had A to Z characters and just kind of made up stories like, Bertram and the balance of trade, or it was ridiculous.
I think that's great. We need to look at that. We should revisit that. That could be something that we could give a home now. That's pretty amazing. Um, so acting and illustrating, is there anything similar? Do you use your
Well,
chops from acting?
So I've always been an entertainer. Like I learned magic when I was a kid and I had a ventriloquist doll. So I would put on little ventriloquism shows for my family and I sang and I danced and so I've always just had this drive to entertain. And then in 2007, Etsy was just getting its start. It was a couple years in. And so there was this huge marketplace. And so I started drawing and putting these characters out there. And I learned, there were faces and I'd make up stories about them. And people were totally entertained. And so then through my art, I found another way to entertain people. And it just kind of has stuck with me.
So your imagery is almost a performance in a sense, a visual performance. I totally see that. And I want to tell everybody that we are going to look at her work shortly, a beautiful selection of some images. We are going to do a giveaway. Do you want to hold up the book that will be the random guessing game giveaway? Do you want to flip through the inside of that? And how many illustrations did you do from that?
So this one has 25 portraits, and this book is about different chemists. And so I got to do the portrait of the chemist. There's a bio write-up, and then it's a beautifully designed book. This was Quarto that I worked with, but the photography is lovely.
It's chock full of full page. Yeah, do you want to pull that close to the screen?
Sure.
That big, I mean, that is just gorgeous. It's chock full of full pages. How many illustrations were you commissioned to do for that one?
This one is 25. And then the range of portraits, it's I'll go through a couple in my presentation, but it starts way back in 2000 BC, and then it goes all the way up to contemporary scientists. And this one was fun. Rachel Burks.
Who is that?
She is a scientist right now. She does chemistry. She does really cool stuff with fingerprinting and identification. And
I mean, what's so amazing is you have a sort of STEM background, economics, and you get these sciencey books. And do people see it in your work? Do they know it? I really believe we attract on a magical level the kinds of jobs. When I was like going through divorce, I got all these articles on divorce to illustrate. And like it wasn't public. There was no social media then, like friends knew, not art directors. Or when I was like stressed out as a mother, I got all these balancing motherhood in your work. Like, it's unbelievable. And you get all these sciencey books. Did you learn a lot from it? Did you love reading about these people?
Yeah, it was really great. I love history and I love research. And so it was fun to just have an overview. It wasn't a specific time period. It wasn't, specifically all men. It wasn't, it was great just learning about these women and their contributions to science and how they've played a big part.
Do you find, I love that, as you pointed out, there were women in there and probably people of color that maybe have been noticed, underappreciated. I know that so many publishers are working so hard to represent all kinds of people. Did you have female mentors along the way, or that you either knew personally or you observed from afar that gave you more of a boost or confidence?
I don't know. I've kind of always been a lone wolf, just like lurking in the background, watching and learning. Kind of my personality to stand back a little bit. And so I am introverted, even though I was an actress.
I know, it's interesting. I hear that that's sometimes the case because you can love to act, but not necessarily love to be in front of people.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about how you became an illustrator. So how did it morph from where you were to where you are now in a nutshell? I know that's
Well, yeah, I'll try to keep, it's like a bumpy ride, so I'll try to keep it short. But basically, I started selling my work in 2007 while I was going to college, and people kept buying it. And then I got gallery shows and showed a lot. And so then I went to grad school. And then after that, I was like, okay, well, now it's time for me to set this artwork aside and use my degree. I got hired as an economist. For an environmental research firm. And so I just kind of stopped making art for a couple of years. And then a girl I worked with was like, if I could draw like you, I'd make art all the time. And I was kind of like, wait, you know, what am I doing here? And fast forward a few years later, and basically I was at a stage in my life where I was still balancing these two things again, art and economics. And I was just like, where can I be most useful? Like, is it really writing these appraisals, appraising people's houses, dealing with real estate, whatever? Or is it this artwork I can do that brings light to people? Like I do shows and I see people light up when they see my work, and I see all of this. So I made the decision to fully concentrate on my artwork. And I would say that was about 2014. And so I got a studio and I did kind of R&D. It's like, what would I want to do? I don't really want to show original work for the rest of my life. I'd like to get a little more into illustration. And
why was that you didn't want to show work and you wanted illustration?
You know, I had spent maybe 7 years like continually pumping out original works. I've probably created over 1,000 pieces that are out in the world somewhere. And so it's like, you know, I just started pumping it out and pumping it out. And I realized, you know, this original work I'm creating is a little more special than a commodity product, you know, and I wanted to kind of sit with my original work. And I'm not the type, I wasn't getting like $30,000 for an original, you know, so I really had to crank. And
it made good economic sense to be an illustrator because, well, I liked it because I got to keep my work. And second of all, you can get royalties. You can often make way more than you might in a gallery. So you get more per piece generally in the beginning, you know, unless you really pursue it heavily.
So I like dress rehearsals. So I sat back for a couple of years. And then I was also training for an ultra marathon at the time in the middle of winter. And this was around 2017. And I fell on the ice and cracked my ribs. And so I was laid up and I was trying to be an artist. And so I had all this time and your class came in front of me and it was like, take mats, you know, from this wonderful agent. And I didn't even know agents existed or what, you know, and so it was this whole new eye-opening experience and really helped me grow with my work.
So wonderful. That's so wonderful. That's exactly why I did the courses too, because I would get art submitted, and I still do. We do get art submitted every day, and there's so much talent, but there's not the right direction. People didn't know what are the markets, who's buying, what do you want to, like, I was like, when I was young, like, just tell me like what to draw. I can do it in my own kooky style. I don't have to, you know, change it, but just like, where can I make a living? What art can I do? And then I figured it out as an illustrator when I was in New York over time, and then as an agent. So it's this warms my heart because that's exactly what I was hoping with Mats, give people something, a direction, so they make art that sells, hence the name.
Well, and it was pretty incredible too, because from 2014 to the end of 2016, I was also doing morning pages, which here are almost 3 years worth of morning pages.
Wow.
And I'm kind of on this artistic journey now. You know, I had decided that I was going to focus on art full time. And so I just kind of poured out, like, what am I doing? What am I supposed to be doing? And then towards the end, I really started asking for a mentor. You know, it's just like, I would love.
Asking the universe.
Yeah. And then, like I said, it all just kind of came together, you know, me falling, your advertising coming in front of me, but it also didn't all come together. You know, it was the result of kind of a lot of talking.
Hard work. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm manifesting. It's so interesting how so many artists and the artists in the webinars like this that I talk to, my artists, have used manifestation in some way. And I think it helps focus. It is magical, but also it directs our energies. So you did a lot of hard work to get your work at a point where you became representable. It's like presentable, but representable.
Right?
Okay, so then what happened? Are you all riveted, viewers? Is this such, and those of you with jobs, you're like, I want to do what she did. I want to change my career. Bloom Bear says, yes, great story. Riley says, Mats and morning pages plus you equals wow. So great. It's amazing. Really great story, says Rune Jensen. So what happened? It's like a series.
Yeah, I know, right? So I found you in like the beginning of 2017. I think I took the second ever ICB,
Mhm.
which is illustrating children's books. And
What year was that?
it was January 2017, so the beginning
17?
of
Okay.
January, February. And you know, I was on my own. I mean, the thing is, when you're like your own artist, I never had any feedback. I would always just put my art out and that was it, you know? And so now all of a sudden I had a feedback mechanism and I could see where I needed to improve or how I could get better.
And you
And
made a lot of the reviews.
yeah, and the community was super great too. I made a lot of artist friends, which is, so I kind of felt like I had a place. And so I stayed there and I took the boot camp and I took the home deck and I took, I signed up for my year of art school and I just kept getting better and better, I think.
You did. And I stood up and took notice. And I was like, I love this one.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's, you have a unique style. We're going to look at Kellyanne's work soon, and we will do a giveaway at the end for those of you that just joining us. We have a question. Be sure to put your questions over in the Q&A section. Feel free to chat in the chat section. I'm reading that, glancing over as we talk. Anna Bianchi says, are you a Sagittarius?
No, I'm a Leo.
That makes sense
But
too.
I have Pisces and Cancer. I think
Oh, the
my
water.
moon is Pisces and my rising's Cancer. So I'm like a super watery Leo.
Yeah, well, I'm a super watery Capricorn. So I'm like organizations. I love to sort, organize. I like to take abstract concepts and divvy them into little boxes, like as you know, with my courses or the agency. So here's a question. Tina Cash says, thank you, Lilla and Kellyanne. Kellyanne, how do you create your illustrations? All traditional or digital or question mark? Thank you.
So I used to work only traditionally. I did colored pencil work on wood. And towards the end of 2016, I got an iPad Pro for the very first time. And so all of a sudden, all of these colors, everything was at my fingertips, and it was absolutely amazing. And so I just latched on, and pretty much my husband thought I looked like an iPad Pro for the first couple of years, like because I was just like
Draw
constant.
that. Like
I'm a lot better now. He's like, oh, you're not drawing. But yeah, I've worked in Photoshop too. So before I would take and scan my drawings and then clip them and then paste them and everything to make stuff. But yeah, now I just like completely, I have tons of sketchbooks, but I love it. I love Procreate. I love.
So many artists do love it. And having drawn traditionally, I think is a huge help. It's not necessary at all. Some people don't do that.
Well,
Bloom
and
says,
it was a big thing for me too. Sorry. When I did switch over to digital, I didn't want to try to replicate my old traditional style. Like I just wanted something completely fresh and new. And so I got to start as a complete beginner and build my style again and see what I wanted to do.
Kellyanne V2.2.
Yeah.
0.20. I'll get there eventually with the little. Okay, Josie Vlitos asks, hello, Lil and Kellyanne. Do you have any words of wisdom for independent illustrators negotiating licensing fees fees. Thank you so much. Oh, that's a toughie.
Yeah, so I didn't do any licensing beforehand. I was just solely doing fine art and gallery shows. And that's kind of why I wanted to go an agent route. I would give everyone everything away for free. I would be like, here, you can just have this, or just whatever, take my art. So I'm kind of one of those people that almost needs an agent so that I can pay my bills.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big question. So we're going to go to the next one. Sorry about that. But um, Rune Jensen says, what is some good advice becoming an artist that you wish someone had given you when you were still new to illustrating?
Oh, that's tough, Runa. That's my husband's son-in-law in Denmark.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Um, you know, I I kind of look for my own advice, I guess. I went to Icon in Detroit a couple of years ago as an observer, and just kind of I went to every single presentation and listened to everything. And I think my best advice I've ever gotten is don't be afraid to be stuck in one particular style. Like, don't, just because the market's accepting that, like, still explore, still test, see what you love. Yeah.
That's so great. It is. It is. It is. And immerse yourself, learn everything, look at everything, budget, what you spend time on is what you value. So if you spend time on watching a particular show, that's what you value. And if you value your career, you have to work really hard. Let's see. Anna Bianchi says, what are your favorite brushes in Procreate?
Well, I only pretty much used 2 or 3 brushes. One I created accidentally
Oh,
when
yeah.
I was first starting, and I had no idea what I was doing.
Oh, I'm sorry. You
With
froze for a
settings,
moment. You froze for a moment. Do you want to repeat the answer?
yeah, my back.
You're back. Yep.
So I only use really 2 to 3 brushes. One I accidentally created when I was new to Procreate, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I was messing around. So that's kind of like a little bit of my signature brush, I guess. And then I love the gouache brush.
Mhm.
Um, and like the ink, to add my little magic stippling pixie dust, whatever.
Um, yes, for sure. Nita asks, do you use Kyle brushes?
I don't. I use the native Procreate brushes, and just like I said, just 2 of them really. And I have a technique where I just do tons of layers, like soft washes and layers of different colors. And
So fantastic. Lori Christopher says, how much time are you given for a project like the chemistry book?
I'm trying to think. The chemistry book, I think, was about 3 months.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, and so and with any project, like, it takes a little time to get going. You're feeling out the art director, they're feeling you out, you're learning your language together, doing sketches, getting the feel for the book, and then really all the magic happens right towards the end.
Um, I want to know how you tackle, and this sort of ties into the last question, how do you tackle huge book illustration projects like this? How do you break it down? Do you say, okay, one illustration every 3 days? Like, do you do it like that? You are an economist. Can I say it?
Spreadsheets, I like my spreadsheets. But let's see, I just wrapped up at the end of May a huge book project, and I got to illustrate Aesop's fables. So I had 200 scenes, and not just like a crown, but like an individual little scene. I think it was like 35 double page spreads and like 40 full pages. And that was crazy nuts. And so I don't know, I kind of have a project flow. Like, I'm not the type to be like, okay, I'm going to sit down now and do 3 a day or whatever.
Mhm.
But for that one, I had when you work in Procreate, you can kind of storyboard everything. So I got to see the entire book that I was working on at one time.
Oh,
So I worked on about 40 pieces at a time and just kind of build those up so that it was just clean and simple throughout the entire book, and not like, oh, there's one style over here or one style.
Yeah, it is very cohesive. It is very consistent. And that is a tricky thing when you work over time. You do grow and evolve. That's a really good tip. Why don't we take a look at your work? And I want to remind everybody our next webinar is next Thursday, 12:30 Eastern Time. That's August 20th, and we will be chatting with Jennifer M. Potter. So that will be wonderful too. Hope you join us. We will have a giveaway at the end of this where you will a guessing game, and the winner will get the Chemistry for Kids book that that Kellyanne showed. Okay, so let's go over to here, share this little screen, and tell us about this gorgeous thing. And I know you did something different with color.
Yeah, I've just been trying to break outside of my color barriers and be a lot brighter and play with brighter colors. I tend to be very neutral, and I collect vintage things, and I like all white and cream and
Browns.
so yeah, and browns and teal. So this is the start of my PDF, and it's just kind of playing with color, getting used to colors that, I'm new to purple, so I've kind of been throwing it around a little bit, but
That'll be great for the illustrating illustrating children's book story that I wrote, I Paint Purple, which you're doing, and we're going to see your work for that in this little slideshow. I'm crazy about that butterfly in the middle, but you see everyone, her eye on top. There's always that sort of mystical Egypto quality that she puts in her work, incredibly magical. And of course, not always, not every assignment calls for that, but you watch and you'll see some of that really beautiful modulations of this purple to the magenta as well. Okay, here we go. Tell us about this.
yeah, so this is one of my first book projects with the studio, and it's the Kitchen Pantry Scientist Chemistry, Leslie Heineke. But this was the very first chemist, and I loved it because she was a royal perfumer. She was a woman, and like the very first chemist was a woman. That's brilliant, right? And I forget, it's like 800 BC she was born. I can't read, but yeah, so we were making magic long before.
And again, how you attract these kinds of jobs, that in and of itself is magical. Next page.
Yeah, and then these are a couple more of the scientists. Portraits are really interesting. They make me nervous. I'm always afraid to draw people, but
I didn't know that.
yeah, but I do it.
Very well, I might add, very beautifully.
So these are a couple of my favorites from the book. Mendeleev made the periodic table, and he actually, as he was working on it, the solutions came to him in a dream. This table that we know today, and a lot of the areas that were even blank that he marked off in his dream or in real life ended up being elements as well in those exact positions. So I thought, he's got kind of the crazy mystical Russian, I think he's Russian. And then Marie Curie, of course, is a beautiful scientist. She was born in Poland, and she went to school in France. And the fun thing about portraits is you get to research all those little details and kind of put them in. So it's not quite too clear, but you can see I took this Polish emblem and put it in her background on her wallpaper. Little tiny details like that are fun.
Fabulous. Look at her little hand on the bottom center with the pen on the paper. So many little careful details. Your work is so beautifully rendered, so carefully. The tones are very soft and beautiful. I love his beard. The lines in his beard is really pretty fabulous. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Next page. Oh, gotta go put my cursor on there. Okay, tell us about these.
So those were two book covers I got to do for Random House, which, you know, it's just, everything I get to do is so exciting. I love this job that I have now. And they're middle grade stories, and they're kind of they're each about different girls, but they're about these two strong girls that have their own stories in their own time period. I think the Hope Chest was, you know, during the Seneca Convention in New York. So these two girls run away and they're gonna, you know, fight for women's rights. And then so the starting from Seneca Falls, I think was earlier, like 1830s, and it was their journey. I didn't get to read that one because the manuscript wasn't out when I did the cover, but I love covers.
Why do you love covers?
You know, I grew up with books, and books were always so important to me. So I spent all my time in the library or bookstores just like looking at books. And there's something about covers that you get to kind of sum up the entire story in this one image, you know, and they're fun to design.
I like that. You sum it up. It's the essence, it's the overview, it's the tone, the mood, the main characters, even the color palette needs to reflect the tone of the text.
Right. So like the Hope Chest is this sunny, bright story, but starting from Seneca Falls is kind of this moody, you know, they're escaping in night. So the cover needed to be kind of mystical and moody. And
Beautiful. Okay. I love this. I love, love, love these cards. Tell us about this.
I also love really highly decorative work and, you know, kind of with a natural history element. And so I've gotten some card designs. I've licensed a few cards. These are some of my designs. I've had a few sympathy cards, which makes total sense for me. I don't know, I used to be a hospice volunteer, and so I try to bring like a peaceful energy into things. So I love getting sympathy cards.
Another thing I never knew about you. Wow. And they are beautiful. And that's one of the first things, not one of the many things in your portfolio that attracted me, that you did do sympathy cards so beautifully, uplifting, but with a serious tone. It's hard to juggle both the gravity of the situation, but to uplift. And it's very unique style. I love that good luck one on the bottom left with the horse. I love them all. Love them all. They're beautiful. Love the one above it. The tones, the colors are so beautiful, and the mushrooms. You're very much a designer. How you design the page. You could take a piece of tracing paper, go over, and simply draw the elements, and you'd have a really beautifully designed page. It's very designy. Okay, next page. I
Um,
love these.
yeah, so back to journaling. My husband told me I'm not allowed to say I love everything, but I just love everything.
No, you
Um,
are allowed. As your agent, I'm saying you are allowed. Totally.
so when I was in college, I used to buy really beautiful notebooks from Chronicle, you know, the journals they'd have and everything. And instead of like taking my notes in a normal notebook, I had these beautiful notebooks for every different class. So I'd go into like my healthcare economics class with like this unicorn or so, I don't know, it was whatever. But I love journal covers. And these were a couple I designed for the maths class, I think. And I also really enjoy playing with, it's almost like a paper cut, or back to my theater thing, I like old stage settings. So I like to kind of imagine, you know, the old ones with the water that would move, and you know, that I'm creating some sort of stage setting or scene.
That really comes across. It's beautiful, and how you do the shadows, because this is just a flat image. It isn't cut paper, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. But boy, do you really make it pop Okay, let's look. Well, let's answer a question. Um, Gemma Jamie Skidmore says, "Hello, Kelly. I love your moody color palettes. How do you approach color in your work?"
It's really very intuitive for me. When I'm starting with something, I generally kind of do a super rough sketch. You probably wouldn't even know what it was. And then I just start laying down blobs of color, and almost like I'm painting, and then it's almost like a click, right? When you feel a color that works,
Yes.
or something. So I try to tune into that um,
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. And it just is like, yeah, now it's complete. It works. It's in totality. I'm looking at on the blue journal on the left and how the pop of those beautiful red orange flowers in the corner are just beautiful with it. Love the green geranium leaves too on the left. The moon is so beautiful with the constellations behind it. And then if you keep looking and looking, you see more things like the circle in the center, and then the vines around it, and the scallop around it, and the blue border. There's like so many border upon border upon border, but it reveals itself slowly. It's really wonderful. And your lettering is also from a different time, not just in these pieces, but all of them. And what I loved about your work early on was it's like vintage Montana, you know, like my stuff here is like vintage Northeast, or maybe like 40s, 50s California. But it has a certain Western quality, maybe not so much here, but in some of your other pieces. Let's go on. Tell us about this gorgeous person.
this is kind of my signature look. So I always just do this like bust of a pretty girl, and I've done it like when I was a kid drawing pictures, when it's just always this, and not the exact same girl, but just the idea. But I love kind of being the feeling of being taken away by a dream or something, and I feel like she really represents kind of the mood I like to play with the most, which is a serene dream world.
It really comes across. And that collar, can we talk about that collar and that coat for a moment with the skull on the left? I mean, I want that coat. So
I love fashion. A dream would I just love fashion so much. So that's actually based on a fashion designer, Vivetta. They're an Italian designer. So I like pulling in fashiony elements to my
mm.
drawings as well.
Annette Krauss says, I love her one earring. Yes, pretty. And again, I didn't really notice the earring. I'm so obsessed with like her face, her jacket, the dragonflies, and then there's more and more little bits. Yeah, yes, it's a great surprise, says Bloombauer. Talking about the little skull on the side. Okay. And then these, I think this is what, like, when I saw these, I'm like, I've got to represent this woman.
Yeah, so this was kind of when I was doing this work, and this is personal work. That's kind of when you sent me a message and you were like, hey, do you have any children like this? Like any children's looks? And
Oh, of children. I was looking for you doing children's book work. I was wondering, yeah, not did you have any offspring, but did you have drawings of children? Right.
style, and so that's how our conversation got started there. But
It was from these.
personal work is just so important. And what that means to me is I like to sit down with nothing in mind, but see what comes out. So all of this started from nothing, and then it just built on itself and kind of showed me the vision. And it's kind of, so it's two mermaids, but it's the same mermaid, but you can't tell which one is having the dream and dreaming of the other, or
Mm,
yeah.
wow. And the more narrative you have when you're making a piece, the more richness it has, the more evocative, which definitely comes through. I recognize that mountain in a project you're working on right now. It's interesting how we have our motifs that
Yes.
come through. I love the frames. I don't recall seeing any work like, hadn't recalled seeing anything like that with the, like their frames on wallpaper. I mean, again, it's like, to me, that's very vintage Montana, maybe, I don't know, but it's like a wooden hand carved frame or something, kind of rustic.
Yeah.
It's not Baroque, it's not, a 18th century French frame. It's got its own unique quality. It's pretty magical. Love these. Love them. Love them. Love them. Tell your husband I said love a lot. Okay, let's look at Insomnia. I'm crazy about these. Oh my God.
Uh, so this is a little more on the editorial edge.
Mhm.
Uh, and then, again, playing with an idea of a dream world. How fun would it be to have a bed that is actually a tree, and sheep coming from the sky as you try to count them.
Wow.
Um,
That's
that's
so
what's fun about
fantastic.
art. And that's one thing I love about illustration is you can make up whatever you want as you just draw it and it happens. It's like magic to me. I don't know.
Why don't you manifest a job where you can do this? I
I
would love,
Yeah,
are you on it?
I'm on it.
Okay,
And
good.
the piece on the bottom right was done for the Matt's editorial class, and that's one of Beth's. We illustrated one of Beth's articles on dynamic transients, and so I played with it a little bit. Like the woman on the right is looking at the ghost of her younger self. You see the bamboo and the flowers kind of growing over the tree house that lead to the tree that's at the end of its season. So it's like this circular kind of going back in time. But
Fabulous. Great shadow, someone wrote. The shadow on the yoga girl. It's Bloombauer comment day. Okay, let's go to the next page. Yeah, from class, I remember these. So incredible.
these are, I really enjoy covers. And the one on the left was my very first cover ever, the very first time I tried a cover. And I was like, I'm hooked. You just get to feature the character and share a little bit about their world.
Mm-hmm.
Just a couple of my favorites.
And, it's all about the main character in picture books, and which you so beautifully depict. And then you have your interesting borders again. Okay. Oh, another one from class. I mean, is her work mind blowing or what? It's amazing. And
I,
this chiaroscuro, I hope the Italians like that. How you go from very, very dark to light and the lighting. And, she uses the full range of tone from black to white and everything in between. It's very moody and deep, just stunning. Great lettering too.
Thanks. So this was just another one from class, and I love woodland animals. I am in the forest every day, and so I'm talking to the trees and the squirrels and the birds and so it's kind of like my little world. So it was fun to kind of bring a character to life. And then you can go on to the next page, but I did the
Wow.
spread, yeah, from that one. And so it was, I don't know. I love kids' books because it's so fun to dream up these characters' worlds and also play with them. I've done humorous things, and then I've done this kind of sweet, woodsy, magical.
Yeah, it's all about your magic. Look at the blue stream flowing through the trees, and you create such depth, and you want to be, you're there, imagine a little child looking at this, they could fully envision this experience. It's a wonderful mix of it's realistic and to a degree, it's fantastic in the sense of fantasy to a degree. It's really wonderful. Tell me about the little thing at the bottom, the little panel.
Those were kind of the accessories that we got to design. So he has my squirrel had a little handkerchief collection that he would tie up on a rope and, store his treasures in. He had a little paper crown, a marble collection, acorn teacups. a hidden treasure map.
It's fabulous. I like that map. Next one.
And
Greta and the wolf. Oh, did you want to go back to one?
no, it's fine. Nope. And it just, this also is how much, it's just so fun to create these spreads for children's books because I'm not sure if you can see it, but like I hid a little bear in on the upper left by the text. And I liked these wolves, these crazy stylish wolves. And they were litterers, which wasn't very cool, but yeah.
They were litterers. Yeah, they littered. Yeah, it was, I thought this was a challenging text to do because, and the way you did it brought a whole new level to it. So in my illustrating children's book class, which I co-teach with Zoe Tucker, who wrote this story, she writes many of the texts for class, and then has gone on to publish her own, have her stories picked up, and she's now on her 5th book that she's written. She's an art director, but has also morphed into writing. But you brought this to a next level with the wolf, the spirit of the wolf coming out of the fire, which was not easy to paint, I would imagine. Maybe it was.
It's just, it always is just so fun the way these things pop out of your imagination, you know. And, but it was that the text was, their snores filled the forest and the smoke from the fire choked the air. So I just wanted to make this big smoky wolf just kind of
So
choking.
Josie Vlito says, I could just step into the page. Stephanie Morgan says, can I move there, lol. Riley Wilkinson says, you take readers to another world. Children can totally imagine themselves immersed. Terry Fisher says, this is an interesting comment. You can really see that Kellyanne has an acting background. The scene design, staging, lighting, cinematic angles, so great for illustration. That is interesting. What do you think of that?
I love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm. True. Next one.
And then the next one is, I know, I'm like an ICB junkie. So this is the 5th time I've gone through the class.
And it's paid off because you're doing tons of books.
Yeah, and it's also just fun to work with different texts and different characters, and it's a classroom setting, so I can push myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried something very different. So we've been having our fence, we had our yard fence, so now I have all of this new landscaping to kind of garden. And I started with a little fairy garden just for fun. And then it was like, well, now you have to draw a little pixie for class. And so that's how my little pixie was born. But
and do you hear, viewers, how Kellyanne's work is influenced by her life? It's integrated, and I think that's how you get to greatness. You're not just sitting down and doing a piece that has no relation to your life. Now, it doesn't mean you have to draw your life. If it's a commission, it may not be appropriate, but how it seeps in and influences, I think that's one of the takeaways from today with you. So this piece, when we saw this here at the agency, we're like, first of all, we love all your work. Obviously, that's why we asked you years ago if you were interested in representation with us. So we love your work. But then we saw this, it's like, this opens up all new doors and is so freaking adorable and so beautifully done. The fish in that luminous blue fishbowl in the left center, her clothing, her little wings, of course, her face, so beautiful. The slight anime feel, the animation feel, just fantastic. I'm crazy about it. Yep. I paint purple. I wrote that story. Did I say that already? I'm kind of proud of it.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to exploring that. And I just got done with your beta testing of the new kid book course.
You want to explain that?
My own children's book, and I'm just finishing up the dummy now, so it's really an exciting time.
And we're going to be pitching that really soon, as soon as you give us the final.
As soon as I finish
the dummy. And art directors, contact us, picture book art directors, contact us if you're interested in seeing her incredible story, very unique. It's very Kellyanne, and of course her work is amazing. And I think there's one more, right?
Yeah, the end. Thank you. Thanks for looking at my work.
Beautiful. DaltonAbbey.com. Oh yeah, when I saw that, Dalton Abbey, I loved that. Thought that was very clever when I, first clicked on to go to your website.
Yeah,
Kellyanne Dalton.
so when I first had moved out of my house studio into an actual outside of my house studio, it's in this cool area called Reader's Alley, and it looks like it's straight out of Harry Potter. It's all brick. It's just like you're transported
Perfect for you.
to a magical place. But I had to put a sign out in front because it's kind of a touristy area, and so I called my studio Dalton Abbey.
That's so
Some
great.
people got it, some people didn't. Some people thought my name was Abby.
Oh, yeah.
But
We have time for one or two more questions, and then we will go to the giveaway. So I'm going to stop sharing that and come back to us. By the way, if you don't want it to flicker back between the two heads, click on gallery view in your Zoom window. Oh, I'm going to pop up the poll. I'm going to launch the poll, fill that out if you like. It's just a fun thing, kind of tells us about you. So we have some more questions. Tina Cash, Kellyanne, when you use Photoshop on your computer, do you use a Wacom tablet?
I used to have an old one, probably from 15 years ago or so. So not, and like I don't draw on the tablet and then see it happen. Like I do everything in Procreate and then pull it into Photoshop at this point.
Okay. We have a question here. Dana McCoy Holzer says, have you mentored any middle school artists or advice for 11-year-olds starting out?
That's
I
sweet.
think Dana might be an 11-year-old.
Yeah. Well, I know Dana and I have met Dana's daughter, and she is a budding artist. I love now is not, COVID and everything, but I have in the past been a shadow for middle schoolers or high schoolers, and then they come and sit with me and learn what it's like to be an illustrator. But I love one-on-one mentorships. Like that's kind of where my heart is, more so than teaching a big class, but just that one-on-one. So yes, Dana.
Oh, so you know Dana.
Yeah.
Let's see. Carla Sam says, how did lettering become an essential aspect of your style?
I think it's just kind of something that is big in illustration now. I know a lot of clients are like, can you do hand lettering with these covers? I got to do the lettering for it. That was part of the job. And it was nerve-wracking at first. It's so cute on the cover. It's fine. But I think Lilla said, you draw the letters, you draw the shapes, so it's not intimidating. And
just like you would draw anything else, a cup or a bird.
Yeah.
This is a really great question. Kat, or did you have more on the lettering?
Oh, I'm good. Nope.
You're good. Okay. Kathy Rupp says, what is a typical day like for you? Because everybody wants to live the illustrator's dream life.
Yeah.
So you can get up at noon and wear PJs, which you can.
You can. Yeah. I don't, I'm a morning person. I used to work in bakeries, and I did merchandising at Pier 1. So we'd have to meet at like 5 in the morning and set the store and things like that. So I like getting all of my work done in the morning. and then I get to play all afternoon.
I have a question for you. And by the way, if I haven't touched on anything that you want to talk about, please chime in. But I want to ask you about something we chatted about, endurance, and what that means to you. The word endurance is a big deal in your life. Tell us about that.
Well, we were joking because I'm talking fast right now, but I like super fast things. Like I love roller coasters. I love fast cars. I was a hurdler and a sprinter when I was in track. So just like fast and short. Right. And so then after maybe my late 20s, early 30s, I was like, okay, it's time to actually really settle down and work on your endurance skills. And so I started training for endurance racing, which means that I run like 20 plus miles in the mountains. And
Wow.
it you just I've been able to handle things in life so much better, just knowing, okay, we're at the stage now where you're climbing up the mountain, but it's going to be over soon. Or I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yes, absolutely. Go on. I love this. I want to integrate this into my way of thinking about things. So when you have a challenging situation, how does the mantra of endurance guide you?
I guess training in endurance helps me. Gosh, I wish I had the better way to say this, but it helps me when I need to endure things in real life that are out of my control. So like when I was working on the book project, I would joke, or the Fables project, I would joke that, oh, I'm just at the third mountain climb of the Don't Fence Me in 30K, and then I'd be like, that's where I'm at right now. And there's still a lot more to go, but I know I can do it because I've done it, and so I try to have those parallels in my life. Like
In the chat, people, tell me what you think of this. Isn't this kind of a very cool way of looking at things? Yeah, I tend to just think of each day.
so when
Yeah,
I first
hit the ground running in the day, but you're talking sort of looking at the bigger arc, the big picture. Yeah.
And when I first started running, I'm running up mountains, so I would walk up anything that looked like a hill, and then I'd be like, okay, well, you did that. Well, then the second year, I'd try to get a little farther. And then now I've been working on it for 6 years. And so I run uphill and I'm not even out of breath. Like, it's super cool. And I never thought that would be possible, but like I keep challenging myself. And so then, I take that into projects I'm working on.
And so it sustains you. It's a way to deal with the hard stuff where you're like, I can't do another 196 illustrations for this book. And
Yeah.
then you just break it down into little goals, little steps, little,
And
so
it's first perspective, I guess. Because like I said before, it was like, I want things done. I want it fast. I want, and now it's like, you're at a different stage of a project or whatever. So.
But your artwork comes to you very quickly, right? I mean, you make it fast.
So I like to just try to keep my life in a state of flow at all times. Like I practice Taoism, and so I'm always trying to be completely in the present moment. I'm in the woods all the time, which is great. I have to be present. And so the more I can keep myself in that space, the easier it is to kind of create or to get, the answers that I need. But when I'm not in that space, I can recognize it, and then nothing comes easily and it's a pain in the butt. So then I just have to.
You're very tuned into your feelings because you keep a more quiet life. How do you stay in the present moment? Any tips?
It's as easy as breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And you center yourself. And yeah, I mean, I know it gets harder and easier depending, but sometimes all it takes is a breath.
Come back to the breath. Absolutely. Very well put. I will leave it on that note, except we have the giveaway. And I also want to show you Kellyanne's gorgeous tote bag that I was lucky enough to get from her. It's beautiful. I want to just update you on my COVID embroidery. This is where I'm at with it. I did more on it and I'm going to keep working on it. It says pandemic in yellow. And it's a way to amuse myself. So let's, I'll keep working on it and posting it. Thank you for your comments in Insta. And thank you for filling out the poll. So now we have the giveaway. Thank you. Thank you all for your wonderful comments. Sorry we didn't get to all the questions. You asked really great questions this week. As always, don't forget, next Thursday, same time, 12:30 Eastern, August 20th, Jennifer M. Potter will be another fascinating interview, I'm sure. So we have a giveaway. Do you want to hold up what the lucky winner will win? And how about her studio? Gorgeous. And give it a little flip. Yeah, it's so great. I'm gonna curl up with my copy and dig a little deeper. I just looked at the pictures, of course, but maybe I'll actually read the text.
They let me know that I can give a hint. There's a version of Biologists coming out next spring.
Ah, biologist.
Yeah, I'm open for that one too.
Wow. Any other things you want to tell them about, or pre-order, or any books or anything, or newsflash?
The fables come out in October. They're in French.
The book is in French.
Yeah, with Ozu. And everything else I have to keep secret.
You know. Okay, so here's how we do the guessing game. You may enter your guesses as many times as you like, as often, and so forth. Kim, who's in the background. Kim, will you say hi to everybody?
Hi, everybody.
So Kim is going to look the best she can to find the first correct answer that she sees. She may not find the first, so a correct answer, because they come in so quickly. Look at all the people saying, hi, Kim, that's so cool. Did I say that right, Kim? Did I get everything?
Yes, that's right. So we have an animal for you to guess today. So you can start with your guesses.
Wow.
And
We're already going. Wow, that's amazing how fast people are.
It is super fast. I'm watching.
yeah, wow. Okay, maybe we should be a bit more specific. So
So it's 2 words.
And it's
Animal that's
so
2 words. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. We can add a little more as people. 2 words: gray wolf, bunny rabbit, pygmy goat. I love this. Bald eagle, golden retriever. Okay, the first letter of the word starts with an I. The first letter of the first word starts with an I. I love giving these hints, and it's 2 words. Indigo parrot, Icelandic pony, inchworm, that's clever. Irish setter.
Oh, this is good. It's so slow. I can actually read it now.
No, this is really good.
Yeah, can I give
I
it?
don't know.
No, we'll just hold on one sec.
Ooh.
Irish Wolfgang. I will say that's very close. Irish Wolfhound, Susan McCabe.
Susan, you're not allowed to guess.
Brianni Dixon. Brianni Dixon, Irish Wolfhound. Because Susan works here, so no employees of the company can win. So that is, who did I say? Brianni Dixon.
I didn't
Irish
see,
Wolfhound.
but Brianni, you can email me and we will organize getting the copy of Kellyanne's gorgeous book out to you. So my email is kim, @lillarogers.com. Thanks, everybody.
That was wonderful. Thank you. That was so fantastic. Thank you so much, Kellyanne. I learned so much about you, even more, I'm sure our audience did as well. It was just really, really wonderful to see and hear and enjoy you. Thank you so much for brightening up our day. This was fantastic. So I will see you around the biz, and everybody have a wonderful week. Make some art, draw some pictures, and do some embroidery.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.